It's wonderful to have a chat to Jeff Brayley, social researcher at station sponsor McCrindle. They bring data to life, and you do that for leaders in business, in organisations, churches, community groups. Jeff, what is the data that leaders should be looking at as they look into the future?
Leaders should be using multifactorial data. It's all about variety and lots of different data sets. We want to help leaders become really powerful at impacting and shaping a positive future. And so futuristic thinking is what we want to encourage people towards. You also need to be thinking generationally, understanding how society is changing, and also be practical, not just theoretical. Leaders should have a vision for the future and a plan for today.
Now, generations are working side by side so much more. Do you have any data around that?
Absolutely. A whole report, and there's a great infographic on the generations at work right now. 4 generations in Australia, from Gen Zs aged 16 to 30, who are motivated and looking for accessible and approachable leadership, all the way up to baby boomers that are looking for proximity when looking for new work. They want something close to home. And so we've got a great infographic there available for leaders to engage and motivate their teams effectively.
Jeff, I've seen this treasure trove. It really is. You're giving full access for 7 days. So how can people actually get access to this?
You can get the 50 plus infographics, 40 plus reports, courses, all on mccrindle.com. Search McCrindle Plus and you'll find that 7-day free trial. And we hope it empowers a positive future for all of society.
Jeff, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Station sponsor McCrindle, and you can get all that at mccrindle.com.
Towards Understanding with Clayton Bielen values being a positive radio program for everyone. As we present today's episode, please accept this little ears warning. Some of the themes discussed may not be suitable for children.
I don't know how many of us have sat around and chosen the arch window or the circle window or whatever it might be on Play School. I was always the arch window guy. Come on, it's got to get through the arch window. It's such an upbringing as such a natural part of so many Australians' life, watching Play School. And one man who has been on there for a long time, I think, officially we could call him a Play School legend, is Don Spencer. And we're hearing his story today on Towards Understanding. Victoria Sinis is with me. G'day, Victoria.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. Now, do you like Vic, Victoria, Vicky? What's the thing for you?
Honestly, anything besides Vicky.
Okay, great. I'll stick with Victoria.
Thank you.
Great. Victoria, we're going to hear a bit about your story, and it is a story of a powerful understanding of Jesus coming into your life and reshaping who you are. Is that a fair summary at the beginning?
I think so.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to be going through that. This is called Towards Understanding the program, and it's about heading towards some sort of better understanding in our world. We're going to do that in a few different ways with your story, I think, Victoria. We're going to understand different parts of culture, different parts of what culture is trying to do to us, and then what Jesus has for us. So let's get stuck into it. Could you take us back a couple of years and talk to us about some of the work that you were doing?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, my background is actually in businesses and startups and marketing and all the fun things. And I've helped friends build businesses. And so that's, I guess, the context that's needed for how I got involved with what I ended up getting involved in. And so I was working, this was back in maybe 2022. And I was working in hospitality with one of my friends, helping them build businesses. And we're doing crazy hours. We're doing like 100-hour work weeks for like many, many months on it. And so I was like, I need a holiday. So I went to Europe for a month.
Nice.
And while I was in Europe, I actually had one of my other close personal friends start this thing called an OnlyFans agency. And so they had started an OnlyFans agency because they had people in their world that were actually doing OnlyFans.
Right. So can we just stop for a second? For somebody who doesn't know what OnlyFans is, can you explain what that is?
Totally. So I guess it's like this weird, we were kind of saying that weird phenomenon that everyone's heard of, but no one really knows what it is. And that was the case for me as well. I had no grid or understanding besides what culture tells us. So culture kind of tells us that OnlyFans is this really positive, really liberating, kind of new ethical way to be able to share adult content online. But the reality of what it is, unfortunately, is it actually is just a new way to be able to share pornographic content. There's nothing that you can just sell your feed on there and all these other misconceptions. So what OnlyFans is, put bluntly, is a porn platform. and it kind of started back in about 2016. And my understanding is that the original intent of something like OnlyFans was, think about like social media. It's kind of hard, in quotation marks, to build a presence. And so OnlyFans kind of was a bit of a wise way to be able to decentralize social media and monetize your platform, because everything that you do on OnlyFans is behind like a paywall, or you have to pay for content. So if you think about it, it's kind of wise. And so I guess you could say that, like, in a wholesome environment, if I really love to bake, I could jump onto OnlyFans. I can bake. I can put all my recipes behind a locked wall. But the whole allure, and which is why it's so successful now, is that you could directly message me. And you could be like, Vic, you know that muffin recipe that I pay? I'm really struggling. Can you help me? And so that's kind of the original intent, I would say, and backstory of it. But then we kind of see that it's shifted very, very far to what it is now.
Into... I don't know if this is the right phrase, but you sort of talked about it. Porn. It's almost like personal porn. Hey, would you do this for me? And then, or whatever, and then you create a video, that sort of stuff. Is this sort of where
Yeah.
All right, so thank you for that. That's helpful for everybody, because I think you're probably right. I was a bit in that same boat. I mean, I sort of know what this OnlyFans is, but I didn't exactly know, so thank you. So back to your story. Here you are in Europe, and then you discovered somebody who set up an OnlyFans agency. So
correct.
What's that then?
Yeah. So the reason why I like to kind of preface those little details is they matter for what an agency is. So an OnlyFans agency, I just alluded to the fact that, as you were saying, that it's kind of like personalized pornography. So if you think about it from a business lens, if you have a girl that has hundreds of thousands of followers on her Instagram, well, she has to funnel those followers to her OnlyFans. Now, logistically, she can't sit there and facilitate conversations with thousands of people, right? So she has to offset that work. So that's where agencies come in.
Gotcha.
So agencies, pretend to be the girl on their behalf to maximize profits on OnlyFans accounts.
Right, there you go. So it is sort of not quite big algorithm, but it might be personalized interaction, whatever it might be to move that happening to you. Okay, so you found your friends doing this over there, and then they said, hey, do you want to do this work as well? What happened there?
Yeah, so I'd come back from Europe, and my friend was like, hey, we have friends that are already in the industry. I've kind of started this. We think that it'll be a really strong business. You're the one who has the business background. Do you want to be involved? And so now we know my lens. I was like, I don't want to work in hospitality anymore. I'm exhausted. So, of course, to me, again, I think you can make a lot of money. This is luxurious. It's girl power. Like, why wouldn't I go and say yes to building this type of business? Yeah.
Excellent. So that's what excellent. That's what you did.
Unfortunately, but yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's the mindset right then. So you go and you start getting involved in this work.
Yep.
And was it all the things that you thought it would be at that point? And like, okay, there is a lot of money in this. There is a lot of opportunity in it. Were they all there?
Yes and no, to be honest with you. Realistically, people think that you'll make a lot of money doing something like OnlyFans, but the average wage is $180 a month. So vast majority of people don't make any money. Even the exposure I had, the trade-off for the money that was made, you can imagine the severe mental health, all the other problems that come along, the addictions, whatever. But in the beginning, I actually wasn't seeing the back end. So I actually wasn't seeing all the porn. My role was marketing. So my role was actually to manipulate social media to make girls go viral. So then we could funnel all these people from different platforms like TikTok and Instagram to OnlyFans. So I saw all the front end stuff for perhaps maybe like the first 6 months before I actually saw behind the scenes of what we were doing.
Yeah. Okay. So here you are doing this. Can I also just take a pause moment in this instance? Obviously, this program is going out on radio stations that have a Christian base to where they are. And we understand there's a lot of people who don't have that faith either. At this point in time, where were you in terms of a faith conversation in your life or a faith understanding? Did you have any faith beliefs or relationships with God? Where were you in that point?
Yeah. Am I allowed to tell a short story?
Please do.
Because I think that this is important for believers and non-believers. And it's one of my favorite stories to tell, honestly. I always had this memory, and it wasn't until coming to Jesus that I found out that this was real and it actually happened. I remember, so my parents kind of took us to church when we were quite young, but we also stopped going when we were quite young. But I had this memory that I was in like kids' church, and there was a there was someone who was speaking on stage, and they were telling this story that there was in America a shooter that came to a school and put a gun to a girl's head and said, "Denounce Jesus, otherwise I'll take your life." And she said no, and the gun didn't go off. And this story always stuck with me, and so all my life this was my Jesus lens.
Right.
Nothing reflected him in any capacity, but I'd always say, if you put a gun to my head and told me to denounce God, I'd say, shoot me.
Wow.
And I found out that was the Columbine shootings that happened in America, and that was a real story. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, that's so encouraging, because you have no idea what seeds are planted and what kind of faith base people can have, no matter, you know what I mean? And then God kind of harvests that at the right time. So I just think that's really cool.
It is indeed. So what I'm getting from that, and we're heading towards that sort of dramatic moment in your world too, that if I'm hearing it back, that you go, look, I'd be very nominally understanding of it. Like, you know, all right, if that instance said, there's a God, that's what it is. But it's not impacting any of my day-to-day life or the decisions I make.
Never read the Bible. I never prayed. There was no lens for Jesus in my life in any capacity besides that one extreme example.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to your story. So here you are. You're doing this work. You said, seeing really the sort of the front end of this business. Finally, 6 months, you're starting to see the other side of it. And then what continued happening then?
Yeah, so I started to see the back end of it, and the reason why we ended up having to change the way the business worked is we're impersonating people, and people are starting to pick up on that, So that's why I had to start doing back end things as well as front end things. And that's when I actually was exposed to pornography, I would say. I've never seen it before. I've never been a consumer of it. And it's people that I know and that I've built relationships with. And so the easiest way I can explain it is I'm like, my brain just malfunctioned. And I'm really struggling every day. I'm crying. I can't open up my laptop. But when I started to ask questions, everyone is telling me that this is positive. Like, what do you mean? I had people tell me that it's like a safe injecting drug room. People need a safe place to do drugs. We give people a safe place to do porn. So there's everything, I guess, that you could say that the world is telling me. But then in my heart, I was like, I don't feel good, And as well with these lifestyles, drugs, alcohol, the parties, everything, the high life is not the high life, as we all know. So I was kind of like, well, the drugs aren't working anymore. The drinking's not working. I don't feel good. I have to do something. Maybe if I go do an extreme enough act of good, it'll offset all the bad that I'm doing. I know, I'm a genius, aren't I? We love a little bit of karma. Hey, no, I'm kidding, guys.
But isn't that really interesting that that's where you got to? That's fascinating to me, yeah.
I was like, if I do an extreme enough act of good, it'll offset all the bad that I'm doing and it'll make me feel better. So I had this genius idea and I was like, that church that I went to as a kid, they had like a refugee program. I'll sign up for that. And I'll go overseas. I'll help refugees. My father was born in Greece, so I'm half Greek. And I was like, I'll go to Greece. I'll just relax, help some refugees, and I'll feel better because that's a big enough act of good. Yeah. And so this is where it gets really, really cool. But I Googled that church and it's here in Melbourne. And I signed up for this like outreach thing. And that application never went to the outreach department.
Wow.
But actually, the young adults pastor got an email and it said, Victoria wants to reach out to the church. Here's her number. Call her. So I get a call from this random lady one day. Yeah. She's like, hey, I heard you want to come down to church. And I'm like, I don't know, is this like Christian's vetting process to like help refugees? Like I had no lens, but I had alluded a little bit because I was like, like I'm just kind of struggling. Like, and she goes, well, would you like to come down to church this Thursday and have a conversation with me? So I was like, all right, sure. So I rock up to church on a Thursday and like Clayton, I remember sitting in my car and I remember this voice just screaming, you can't walk in there. You're going to burst into flames. You're such a bad person. And I remember just wrestling with myself going, I'm a horrible human. Like I look at the job I'm doing, the things I've done in my life, the things I've seen all, and I'm like, I can't go in there. And I'm wrestling with myself. And I just went, okay, Victoria, there's someone waiting here for you. You just have to go in. And so I walk in and oh my gosh, this beautiful like young adults pastor gets the like brutal 3 hours of me. I don't know, I sell porn and I do this and I do, and everyone tells me that it's good, but I feel about like hours of me just like word vomiting. But she was so beautiful and she just goes, I really think you should come to church this weekend. There's a guest speaker and I think you'll really resonate with them. So I was like, all right, I guess so. So I come to church on a Sunday. The guest speaker is Melinda Tankard-Reese from Collective Shout.
Wow.
So we all know how absolutely exceptional this woman is, but she speaks so much truth and hard truth. And so she's talking in church about the realities of this over-sexualized culture. And she's talking specifically about things like OnlyFans. And she goes around to schools across the country, as we know, and she talks to our young people. And so she sees firsthand how much this is destroying them. And she said this line, and she goes, Christians are supposed to be the salt and the light of the earth, and they have failed, and we are destroying the next generation. And for me, that's what clicked in my heart as, oh, this is wrong. I'm not crazy. This is bad. And so when she finished speaking, I'm like in the balcony at the back, but like I run down to her and I go up to her and I said, hi, my name's Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And she was so beautiful. She didn't do what I thought perhaps maybe Christians would do. I don't know, like, you know, you're going to burn in hell.
Yeah.
She just goes, let's have lunch. And she had lunch with me and she answered all my questions. Isn't this positive, ethical porn, liberating, all the things? And she just again gave me the truth. And that was on a Sunday. And by the Friday, I quit the agency and I walked away from everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a story. Just remarkable. Isn't this an incredible story? We're going to be back with Victoria Sinis in just a moment. She has the founder of Creating Gems, and we're going to talk a bit more about that and what happened next for her in her life. What are the things that she's now involved in, and what is her message now to so many others as well? That's on the way in just a moment here on Towards Understanding.
Share your brand, your event, your message across 90 Christian radio stations and major cities in Australia and New Zealand by sponsoring Towards Understanding, hosted by Clayton Bielen. More than 210,000 people tune into Towards Understanding each week, and with just one sponsorship, you'll reach this immense engaged audience. Find out more about this exciting and unique opportunity now on the sponsorship page at positivemedia.com.au.
We heard this sort of understanding of a lot of the people you were speaking to was like, hey, let's have these conversations about the industry that you're in. You then quit that industry. I just want to, before we talk a bit more about the work that you're doing now with Creating Gems, I just want to push in a little bit more about the relationship with Jesus. So it's great to have that moment where you go, oh, this makes sense. And Jesus has spoken to me through people, and I get it, and I'm changing my life. What was the actual change in you rather than even the work, I suppose, that you're doing as you went through the next weeks and months?
Yeah, honestly, oh my gosh, it... how do I, I don't even know. Jesus he's so kind in the people that he just placed in my life to be able to guide, because... you have no grid, you have no context, right? And then you're trying to understand this thing called the Bible. But God was so spectacular that he even, I would just get these weird things of I think I have to go away and not eat. And so I would go away and book a hotel room. And now I know that's fasting. And I'd go away and fast, but I didn't know what it was. And then I'd be this thought would come in my head, and I've not read the Bible, I've no idea, but I'm I think I need to get baptized. I didn't understand what baptism was perhaps until maybe 2 or 3 months after being baptized. Now, I'm not recommending that. It was just the kindness of God that he was the one who was just kind of whispering to me all of these steps that he wanted me to take to be able to understand who he is and hear his voice. And so I left the agency and basically... as we can tell, no friends anymore, no finances, no nothing. And I actually went and worked at a coffee shop for a little bit, which was very humbling, cleaning toilets and making coffees.
So, can I just push into that too? You said so no friends as well. So your world was sort of tied up with the friendships and those people as well. So that's a huge thing, right? To have changed on you suddenly. I walked away from everything. God asked me to just lay down thing after thing. I'm talking empty bank accounts, get rid of all friendships. But it was the best thing, because it's not a negative, because on the other side of that, getting rid of all these things, God's not doing it to take things away, but he's hey, these things hurt you and I have so many better things waiting for you. And so that's what it was, a series of events of God just showing me who he is, bringing people along that are hey, Vic, have you ever done prayer ministry? I'm what's that? And they're it's therapy for Christians. And then from there, deep inner work, deliverance, being able to talk about things in my past life. And as we know,
repentance is huge, you know, and saying, God, I'm so sorry that I did this. Can you help me? Can you heal these broken parts of my heart? And so that's what the journey's really been, is just deep, deep work of God going, hey, I made you, I created you, your identity is me, and you are so incomprehensibly loved that I want to show you how loved you are. And the simplicity of it is that's what this journey has been, you know, where, yeah.
I love that. You then, founded Creating Gems. So tell us about that. This experience, by the way, has only been about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So what God has done in your world is remarkable, and it's so great to hear you here and hear what you're talking about. So talk to us about Creating Gems and why you started it and what you're hoping to achieve through that.
Totally. So Creating Gems, originally, I was actually volunteering a little bit with Melinda, going into schools, talking to our young girls about, these experiences, because unfortunately in our culture now, this type of work is idolized. These girls are idolized. So that's how it started. So I kind of thought that Gems, my path would be I'll go into schools. So I started this thing called Creating Gems, and I was like, cool, made a school curriculum and all of that, and God just totally flipped my world upside down. And actually July last year, God sent me for my first tour to America. So through that tour and speaking about all of this, I'd realized that there's so many other people in this world that have exceptional hearts, exceptional stories, and really want to make a difference, but they don't have the business lens. And I was like, well, that's my background. So then Gems actually changed from like schools to how can I take all the information I have and equip others to forward their mission? Because a lot of the language I like to use is countercultural, but I'm like, how do we not just shift the culture? How do we destroy this one and build a new one? And it's actually Jeremiah. I think it's Jeremiah 1:10, and it's like uproot, tear down, destroy, build, overthrow, plant. And so I'm like, how do we destroy everything? Because all of this hurts us. This isn't good. It's not forwarding. Anyways, hurts us, simplistically put, before I tangent. And how do we build something new? And so to do that, you need to bring people along for it. So a lot of the heart behind Gems is like, I just want to be able to give all the information I have, support and help and build other people and their dreams to be able to forward the mission of, building a new culture.
Love that. Could you share with us a story? I understand if you can't use people's names, get that, from either some of the speaking that you've done, the work that you've been doing with Creating Gems, of what has actually changed by people hearing and understanding that, and what's actually occurred.
Dang. Oh my gosh. So speaking is exceptional because a lot of my speaking is in the church world, and I get to go and speak to young people and talk about this. And I was actually just in Georgia recently with a youth group there, and I'm sharing my story, and Clayton, it was the most exceptional. I'll cry thinking about it. It was one of my highlights. Is imagine 13-year-old boys coming up to you that have grown up in the church and in Georgia, so in the South, like the Bible Belt, for context for people. And they're shaking and trembling and crying because they have a secret porn addiction and they feel like God thinks that they're too far gone. And they're finally confessing it, and like being able to pray for these kids and see that shame come off of them. And like young girls being like, I do things and I don't want to do them because I see stuff on social media. I think I have to. How do I deal with the shame? And so we're seeing that already there is a generation of kids that are being destroyed by shame and guilt because of this over-sexualized culture. And they don't understand that their God loves them so much that there is a way out, So to be able to just be in that environment and love these kids and pray with these kids, that for me is like my favorite thing ever, So I love that. And I think that's so powerful because we kind of forget that our young people really need guidance too. So that's so fun. Then with the business, man, clients, I have one client who was born in a cult and escaped when she was 20. And so now she actually has a non-for-profit that protects children online. And she trains and equips law enforcement. And so being able to forward just, again, her mission and her identity and why her voice is so precious and matters. I have another client that was actually born in a brothel and escaped that brothel. And now she works in anti-human trafficking and rescues women out of brothels and actually has coffee shops. So then she gets to train and rehabilitate these women that she rescues and employ them. And just being able to systemize her back end, because that's so heavy, and be able to say, here are the structures. This is what, it's the coolest thing ever. So they're like I could go on forever, but it's so special.
What I love of your story, there's heaps of things I love of your story, Victoria, but so often people might think, oh, look, if my deal is I'm going to give myself to God, I'm going to give myself to Jesus, then he's going to get rid of everything that I know and whatever else it is. And, sometimes that happens. I get that. But, taken all of the skills and the things that you've been good at and reshaped it for good, reshaped it for a great purpose. And that is happening in a whole host of ways in your story, and then also even in the physical work that you're doing. It's wonderful to hear that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to finish with one question too. And, it's a relatively big one, so take it where you need to take it. But you talked about this idea of that one of the things we need to do is sort of, especially as we talk about over-sexualized culture and online and these sorts of things that are impacting our kids, impacting adults too, frankly, that idea of how do we destroy that and start something new? It seems insurmountable, right? It feels a bit like the old sort of concept of how do I get rid of all poverty in the world, right? Well, actually, I can help that one person, so maybe that's what I do. But how do we actually broach this whole massive world, which it does seem to be forcing and projecting and saying, look, this is liberating rather than actually exploitative. These are the sorts of things. What do you think is the actual path to say how this changes on that big scale?
Yeah, it's. I think that you're right in it starts with the micro moments. And the thing is, across every single generation, there's something that can be done. And I think that's the beauty is that just say, unfortunately, something like poverty is, it's a huge task and it is a big one. And, but this can actually be changed. And I want to encourage people with that we don't have to accept the culture the way it is. We get to determine what it is. And so in micro moments of what you can do, I like to kind of break it down into almost actionable categories for each kind of stage of parents, of young people, of old, is prevention. As we know that saying, prevention is better than cure. If you are a parent, honestly, of faith and you align with biblical values, instill those in your children and don't be scared of them. We literally have a play-by-play of why do we do the things that we do. And I think that it's really important that we have to understand the average age of pornography exposure in Australia is like 8-9 years old. So it's okay that you want to talk to your 4-year-old about, hey, if you're on an iPad, if you're on a laptop, sometimes you might see things that don't make you feel good. We do have good pictures and bad pictures, and that's literally a book you can buy and read with your young child and be like, so if you ever see anything and it makes your tummy feel a little yucky, or you see something and it makes you feel scared on the insert device, come and talk to us and it's going to be okay. And so you're already mitigating so much risk, because if something does pop up, I've had parents tell me that they've had hackers hack into their school laptops at school and literally shown pornography to their kids, and the teacher doesn't know how to be equipped with that. And so you could have all these parameters again, and it's not to doomsday, but it's to say this is a reality, and then there's a thread on that because they're exposed, they don't know what to do, it makes them feel some type of way, the shame comes in, they consume this more, then where does that lead us to? So I think that for parents, you have to understand that you are so equipped and you are so capable to have these conversations with your young children, and do it in age-appropriate ways. And there is so many resources, but also just like ask God, how do I handle this with my child? Then for young people, again, I think that it's addressing and recognizing whenever I speak with young people that I think they got a little bit of attitude still, which is a good thing, They don't like to be like, have the wool pulled over their eyes. So whenever I talk to young people about this stuff, they go, oh, so that favorite influencer of mine, all of those posts are fake. They're not real. Oh, that's really that. And so when they understand, then they reject it because they're like, that's actually lame and I don't want to do that, So I think that, again, it's getting these messages out there for kids of what is really happening behind the scenes of social media. What are the things that these girls are being forced to do that you think is amazing? And championing our kids to dream bigger dreams, because their dreams right now is, well, how do I become an OnlyFans girl and make easy money? So again, we can, equip them with understanding, hey, there's some girl that used to work for an agency and she used to make all these videos for them. Show them that stuff. Again, sit down as a parent and be like, who do you follow? Who are you interested in? And opening up for that space. I think is a really tangible one. And then again, as we kind of come into our older people, to say like your young adults, if you are again of faith, guys, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe that sex outside of marriage is something that we don't align with? Why do you believe that purity of the heart in all it encompasses, not just the sexuality stuff, matters? Because then you will reject this culture, you know? And so I think that they're just kind of for those age groups. I talk to 80-year-old men that are addicted to porn, you know, and they're in the church. And so I could go on forever about all the different ways we can handle this. But all of that to say is there is tangible actions for every single person of every single generation. Right. And we can truly overcome this and actually see something new being built. And I really do believe that in my heart.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It seems like one of the themes is don't freak out, but let's actually face it. Like let's
Totally.
have the conversation,
Totally.
at whatever age that might be.
Yep.
Rather than the freak out moment, because that's actually allows us to then say, well, why do we believe this part of that? Why do we desire this? Whatever else it might
Yeah,
go for.
yeah. I think that we have to remember that our God sees everything. He's not scared. He's not intimidated. He doesn't go, whoa, we shouldn't go there. That's too full. No. So we can literally be like, okay, well, if we trust in God, God sees everything anyways. Mate, he's got this. So we just got to lean into his wisdom and we'll be able to navigate these things really well, you know? Yeah.
Love it. Victoria, we wish you all the best with creating gems and the work that you are doing, the speaking that you are doing. Thank you so much for just having the conversations with us. Thanks for your openness, your vulnerability, your descriptions for us. This is a topic that, you know, we have a deep desire to talk about on the program because we believe it's an important one as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
The founder of Creating Gems, Victoria Sinis, my guest here on Towards Understanding. It's wonderful to have a chat to Jeff Brayley, social researcher at station sponsor McCrindle. They bring data to life, and you do that for leaders in business, in organisations, churches, community groups. Jeff, what is the data that leaders should be looking at as they look into the future?
Leaders should be using multifactorial data. It's all about variety and lots of different data sets. We want to help leaders become really powerful at impacting and shaping a positive future. And so futuristic thinking is what we want to encourage people towards. You also need to be thinking generationally, understanding how society is changing, and also be practical, not just theoretical. Leaders should have a vision for the future and a plan for today.
Now, generations are working side by side so much more. Do you have any data around that?
Absolutely. A whole report, and there's a great infographic on the generations at work right now. 4 generations in Australia from Gen Zs aged 16 to 30 who are motivated and looking for accessible and approachable leadership, all the way up to baby boomers that are looking for proximity when looking for new work. They want something close to home. And so we've got a great infographic there available for leaders to engage and motivate their teams effectively.
Jeff, I've seen this treasure trove. It really is. You're giving full access for 7 days. So how can people actually get access to this?
You can get the 50-plus infographics, 40-plus reports, courses, all on McCrindle.com. Search McCrindle Plus and you'll find that 7-day free trial. And we hope it empowers a positive future for all of society.
Jeff, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Station sponsor McCrindle, and you can get all that at McCrindle.com.